Hi, I'm Andrea and welcome to Productive C#. In this video I want to talk about interfaces and value objects. I have a diff viewer class that takes an idiff and an idisplay, and I have a show method that simply displays the before text and after text of a diff. Idiff interface is simply two properties, before text and after text, and if you look at the implementation, the diff class is simply a class that contains two strings and a constructor to create it. And the display is simply an interface that allows you to display some text, and then we have a console display that allows to print it in case you want to use that. Let's have a look at the test. We have a diff viewer class that we create, passing two substitutes to it. And in the first three lines, we create a diff substitute, and we basically stubs the response for before text and after text, and then we check that we actually received the correct display calls to the methods. So you might think that this is perfectly valid code, that is okay. That's absolutely true. What I want to show, however, is that when you have a class like diff that simply contains just data, is the only purpose of this class is to contain some data, there's no behavior in this class. This class is effectively a value object. It's a sort of a pattern that consists of creating a class that contains just data and eventually should implement the equality operators and the getHash code and stuff like that, so that the only way two classes differ from each other is by the value. Anyway, in this case we do not implement equality, but it's still a class that simply contains data. In these cases, I strongly advise you not to add interfaces, because often there is no need for the extra level of indirection that an interface provides. So what I usually suggest to do, and I actually found that in my project recently at work, is that this idiff here can simply go. I don't want to use idiff. I can just use diff directly. So in this case, I can just remove the dependency from idiff, and then if I go in the test, it simply means that I don't need to create a stub anymore. I don't need to create a substitute. I can just simply create an instance of diff passing the two strings that I care about. So I don't need to use a mock or stub in this particular case. I just simply use the real thing, the real class, because it simply needs to contain data. Of course, I also need to change the diff viewer so that I just take the diff directly and I can store that inside, right? So the code is slightly easy to understand, the test as well. So you remove an unnecessary interface, and you might have a lot of these value objects around your code base, and if you follow an approach like you always create an interface for any class, I would definitely advise you to think about this, because you don't always need to create an interface for a class. There are situations when you don't need it, and in my view, when you have a class that only needs to contain data, there is most of the time no needs to create an interface. There might be some reasons to do that if you want to kind of create some sort of avoid dependencies between projects, but if you are working on your own project, your own solution, and you need to use this class, I would just go directly and use the simple class. There's no reason why a test can't use a class like that directly, and that's my advice that I want to show in this video. So thank you very much for watching.